And Namaste, everybody. Bruce here from rootsoflife.org. One of the fundamental practices of Reiki is actually correlated very consistently with one of the most fundamental practices of meditation and with yoga and mindfulness and so on. And it's one that I wanted to explore in this video here today because we can find so much meaning and space within this simple practice. From a Reiki perspective, it's called In Gassho. Or from a yoga perspective, this is when we bring our hands to prayer, Namaste, at heart center. Now, if you're new to Reiki or you're new to mindfulness, new to meditation perhaps, this is an amazing way to tap into the flow and to feel the flow of Reiki for perhaps the first time. And this gives an idea as to why we start most of our practices and most of our sessions within Reiki, at least I do, by bowing in Gassho, or in hands at prayer. Now what we do with this is we don't flatten the hands tightly together. You're just giving a little bit of a gap. The pads of the fingertips are all touching. And we hold that little gap right next to the chest. So my thumbs are touching the sternum. And wherever you are in your practice, if you're new to Reiki or if you are a seasoned vet, you've been working with it for a long time, just join with me here in Gassho. Hands separated, close the eyes, and let's all feel the connection to this energy ourselves. So here with the hands in Gassho, we bring the mind, or the awareness of the mind, to the space between the hands. So if this is new to you, it's as if you're thinking about the sensation between the palms. That might be heat, tingling, pressure, whatever it might be. That's where the mind stays focused. And we breathe through the nose. And we let everything else soften and relax. So just keeping pace here, keeping the eyes closed. Breathing slowly, letting the body and the mind relax. Keeping the awareness still between the hands, you can probably now start to feel something here. Maybe feeling that heat growing and intensifying, or pressure, tingling perhaps. And let's go just one step deeper, keeping the eyes closed. Just separate the hands a couple of centimeters or inches, maybe about 15 centimeters or about 4 inches or so. Keep the mind still aware of the space between your hands. That sensation that you can feel here, it could be a pressure, it could be heat, it could be goosebumps. Could be a tingling on the fingertips or the palms themselves. That's Reiki. That's the chi that flows through your body. That's the pulsation of the universe, because Reiki is the energy of the universe. Some days we feel it stronger than others. If this is brand new to you, you might not be feeling it yet, but it's there. You're alive. You're listening to this video, so it's within you. If it wasn't, you would be dead. And now to conclude this practice, that ball of energy that you feel, bring it onto the chest. Place the hands over the heart. And you're starting to feel that subtle sensation. Maybe it felt as if you were bringing energy into the chest, or as if there was a pressure coming into the chest, or almost like a droplet of water hitting a still pond. Notice how quiet the mind and the body can become. Feel the heat on the hands over the chest. We're not thinking about it. We're not analyzing it. We're not worried about it. It's just an awareness of that heat. If it's not heat for you, perhaps it's a tingling, again, perhaps a cold sensation, tightness in the spine. All of that's normal and fine. Just be aware of that sensation. Awareness is passive. Awareness is not active. You're not engaging with the sensation. You're simply acknowledging it. You're simply aware of it. And bring the hands to prayer again to conclude the practice. So, welcome back. See, a very simple practice. That was probably 5 minutes or so. And we dive into the feeling and the connection or the stability of that flow of energy via the practice of Gassho. So simple, so basic, yet so profoundly illuminating and humbling and quieting. Now, what is the fundamental meaning of Gassho? What's the point or the practice? Well, to keep it very simple, the fundamental meaning of Gassho is a union of qi. Okay? So the left side of the body and the right side of the body come together over the heart center, and we bring that energy in unison over the heart space, right? Over Anahata, the heart chakra. If you think about the cross in Christianity, they're bringing that energy right over the heart itself. That's Gassho from a Christian perspective. So we have the energy flowing through the spine, through the central nervous system. And then the nerves travel down our arms, of course, and as we bring them together, it creates effectively a loop. So we have a vertical axis of our energy, and then we have a horizontal axis of the energy coming through the hands. And we make a union of that energy right over the heart center. Okay? And we leave a gap between the hands. And why is that? That gap is so that we can begin to feel into that energy. We can start to recognize a texture or a pressure, a temperature. We can recognize an awareness of that energy. And hopefully, with enough practice, what you can start to do with that awareness is let go of all of the understandings of that awareness. So what do I mean by that? It's a complicated thing to kind of explain, but when we have our hands, I'll try to explain it like this. When your hands are in Gassho and you feel the heat, okay, that's fine. But if the mind becomes attached to the sensation of heat, then we become attached to a story or a narrative of the heat, for instance, right? So if we can go beyond that, if we can just witness the heat, if we can be aware of the heat without attaching any meaning to it or any desire to it, then the understanding of that heat starts to dissipate. It starts to relax, and we start to move beyond what is a logical understanding, as it were. And this is the beauty of Gassho, because the more we practice, and indeed, just as we did here for 5 minutes, if you hold that space and you can transcend the sensation between the hands, then you might start to recognize that within that space is an entire universe. Remember, Reiki is universal energy. And so if you're able to feel just that small little thread or sensation of energy between the hands, well, because that's the energy of the universe, then you're feeling the universe. You're engaging or flowing with the universe. That's a profoundly humbling and stilling or comforting space to be in, indeed. Because we start to recognize that in the practice of Gassho, in the understanding or the feeling of that energy that's between the hands, we start to recognize that there simply is nothing else. When you practice Gassho, your worries aren't there. Hopefully your mind is calm enough that you're not attached to meanings of the day or thoughts of the day or what's coming ahead or whatever. And so in that one practice, you're free, right? In that one practice, the stillness that we can feel and really be a part of within Gassho is your existence. That's a beautifully liberating space to be, because we can start to then transition from an awareness that this sensation is possible within Gassho to an understanding that this awareness is possible in our entire life, right? That's the power of just bowing in Gassho. And I want to read an excerpt from Dinan Ketagari's book, Each Moment is the Universe, and a book that I would really recommend. It's an incredible book. This is on page 49, and I think it'll start to give a little bit of further understanding as to the point that I'm trying to make here to Gassho. So he says, when you bow in Gassho, you just do Gassho through and through, meaning you're just aware of the practice of Gassho. You're just in the practice of Gassho, nothing else. Again, not worried about the groceries or the to-do list for the day. He further says, if you really do this, you can touch the ultimate truth. Then through Gassho, you learn something. By the thoroughgoing practice of Gassho, you return to the truth. And simultaneously, Gassho rebounds in the form of your human life. Okay? He continues to say that maybe you don't understand this now, but that Gassho helps people and deepens and enhances the lives of individuals is incredibly profound. Now, it's not that he's saying, in my opinion anyways, when he says maybe you don't understand this now, that's not a criticism. That's really just an honest assessment of where we all are. I didn't feel that the first time or the second time or the 100th time that I sat in Gassho. But with practice, we do feel it. See, and that ultimate truth that he's talking about is that awareness of that energy. If we can become singularly aware of that energy between the hands, then we can start to recognize that that is who we are. That is who all of us are. That is what connects all of us. That's what is at the foundation of every being. Everything in the universe pulsates with that energy. So if we can recognize a truth in that energy, then we might start to recognize that we're not separated. And we might indeed start to recognize that the illusion of separation is creating our suffering. Further, we might start to recognize that in the silence of Gassho, our suffering softens, or hopefully doesn't exist at all. That's incredibly liberating, and hopefully, diving into that very simple practice, you can see what I was alluding to at the start of this video by saying that Gassho is incredibly simple in its practice, but incredibly profound in its results. So, enjoy that practice, everybody, and I hope my understanding and my own interpretation of Gassho has perhaps helped you to maybe see it in a different light or perhaps deepen your own practice. And if this is brand new to you, then perhaps maybe you can bring this into your daily practice. As you can see here, it only takes a couple minutes, and we can completely change the trajectory, of our entire day. Be well, everybody. Namaste and In Gassho to all.